Ah, Q&A time. It has been, wait, according to my watch, way too long since I have been answering a lot of questions. And that's partly because I have been answering questions that you guys have been sending me directly in messages. So if you go over to my LinkedIn in the description below, at this point, it was just easier to just respond to people directly, give people answers. But as a result, I do have a lot of questions that people have asked since the last time I've been making videos, and I have a lot of answers. But the first one that I'm going to start out with, which I'm going to make a separate video from this one to kick off a playlist that I'll put together for you guys of content that I'll curate. It won't be my content. Over time, if I can put together more stuff for the Security Plus, I'll do that, but I'll just have at least one other video for the Security Plus. But I want to talk about that because of all the certifications you can get. There's one certification that certain governments will essentially say that if you, like as a compliance requirement for their business, you must have a Security Plus to work on their cybersecurity stuff. So if you get that certification, you can essentially get all the cybersecurity jobs available as long as you have certain qualifications. Sometimes you have to have military clearances and whatnot. So let's exclude things like clearances. If you have a clearance, you're lucky. You should use that. If you have a military clearance, then it's probably more valuable than a certification actually. So use that while you have it, or clearance or whatever. But getting back to the certification stuff, I get a lot of questions about certifications, which ones are going to be the most helpful, and I'll put it this way. Certifications are only as useful as you allow them to be, which means that if you take a certification for something and the certification allows you to realize that you don't want to work in that area, then I would say that that's worth taking the certification to find out, do you like something or do you think you might hate doing it? And then alternatively, if you work toward a certification and you pass it, it also does give you preliminary information to help you have more context around subjects, and it does make it easier to pick up other things in a field much faster when you have the education that comes with the certification. But the piece of paper, honestly, I would go so far as to say that negotiation tactics are all you need when it comes to getting a job, not the certification, but the certification, once again, allows you to tailor your personal skill sets so that you can, like for your own growth, so that you can be better at what you do, because it's also easier to get raises when you're really good at what you do, and it's also easier to do your job becomes less stressful, you become in higher demand. It's easier to go and work at the company you want to work at when you become really in high demand because you're skilled, you're talented. And one of my lights went out, but it doesn't matter that the light went out because okay, anyways, all distractions aside, if you're trying to look for jobs in cybersecurity, I would just go so far as to say learning how to negotiate and look for jobs. Don't spend a lot of time on job boards. If you've been spending all of your time looking for jobs on job boards, I strongly recommend don't spend a lot of time on job boards. Going over some other various questions that I get asked, some questions about, so I guess to finish answering the question of which certification should you focus on choosing certifications that teach you skills that you would actually want to have to practice in a job. I know that sounds like, I don't know how to put it, because it almost sounds like I'm oversimplifying it, because I think that is an oversimplification. There's some more depth to that idea somewhere, but it's beyond me at this time. So some other questions that I get regularly, I'm always asked, how can you learn Linux? Honestly, the easiest way to learn Linux is to just download an application on your computer called VirtualBox if it's compatible with your computer, and Google how to install Linux on VirtualBox, and by the time you've gone through Googling how to install VirtualBox, you'll know how to install Linux. As a matter of fact, if you look in my videos, I have some challenges that tell you what you can research. Do the research challenges on week 1 and week 2. Actually, just do all the cybersecurity research radio challenges. They teach Linux. I'm focused on Kali Linux with those. So install VirtualBox or buy a Raspberry Pi. That's the other way to do it. So you can buy a Raspberry Pi and learn Linux, or you can buy a Raspberry Pi course of some sort that teaches Linux. But that's probably the easiest way to just learn Linux. You just have to use it. It's really not as complicated as you might think until you get your hands dirty. Get some questions. How do you learn how to code? Oh, now that's a slightly more complicated question. How do you learn how to code? Learning how to code, and we're talking about cybersecurity first, I go so far as to say, if you're talking about trying to become a cybersecurity coder, maybe that means you want to be a pen tester or a software engineer for cybersecurity technologies, or data scientist of sorts. So I guess in my opinion, the easiest way to learn how to code is to just go get a QA job at a software company. Yep. Or a pen testing company, or better yet, get a QA job at a pen testing tool development company. You will learn everything you want to know. But QA jobs are great ways to learn Linux. QA jobs are great ways to learn anything, software engineering, software development, other ways that you can self-teach software engineering or coding stuff. Since I'm not really a software engineering company, I'll make a playlist of videos that are helpful for the Security Plus, but the other people are probably the better people to ask specifically for the coding aspect. And while I have to deal with coding and I do code, it's not the thing that I jump for joy at. I will write code for the sake of automating things I don't want to do ever again, and then I have a general personal preference to never touch it again. So I won't lie and pretend like I'm the person who loves to code. But like I said, I do know how to code, and I've written a lot of code, and I've written a lot of applications, and so I can. It's just not what I like to teach, I guess. Now, maybe I'll just leave it with these questions for the day for now, and then I'll get back into some more just generic answering questions. Oh, there is a big question that I should make another separate video for, and I'll do that, is talking about why is it that every entry-level job seems to require 5 years of experience and crazy advanced certifications. That's a problem, and there are ways to get around it, but it's not talked about much, and that's something that I can talk about a lot more, because I know that it's been a barrier for applying to jobs for a lot of people, because they see the job requirements and they're like, "Ooh, what?" So get that video on the way too.